Hey, hello everyone. Hello. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Pavel Shigelsky and I'm one of the GGG leads of GG Minsk here in Belarus. I'm very excited to be here, as I said, and to be on the same virtual stage with all of you and our cool speakers today. So today we are going to have like two sessions, one in English and the second one will be in Russian. Before I will present our speakers, I want to say hello to all of you who are on the opposite side of our virtual opposite side of the monitor, our virtual meetup, and watching us. So hi our community, hi our audience. I'm very happy and yeah, before we move forward with our speakers, with our presentations, I want to make a short introduction about us, about our community, about GG Minsk. Basically, GG Minsk it's a Google developers group community based in Minsk, in Belarus, and. And I want to ask you like one short question. Could you please write in the chat where are you from? Yeah, while you are writing this simple answer, I will read it later, of course. I want to say that GG Minsk, the community where the main goal of the community is to share the knowledge, to networking, to share different experience in different technologies. Mainly, we focused on the Google technologies, but right now, at the moment, it doesn't matter because what is matter for us is the experience, is the sharing, is communication, networking, collaboration, and so on and so forth. But we support different streams, so we support mobile and front end and cloud. Today, we are going to deep dive into the cloud technologies together with our best speakers. And G Minsk are you can find us in any platform. So it's in Facebook, in Telegram, in Twitter, or in YouTube. So subscribe in the YouTube, and you will get the latest updates about our events. We are trying to keep one meetup each month, and it can be different technology. So one of the cloud or mobile or web. And today our meetup it's online, yeah, you know, and I want to say that don't worry if something happened, just try to write in the chat if you have any problems and we'll try to help you. Let us know, yeah, and I will try to fix it. But sometimes just reload the page and it works. But yeah, don't worry because yeah, we know that it's online. It's not an offline event. But yeah, so and of course we are like looking forward to your feedback after the meetup because this feedback helps us to improve our skills, to improve our meetups, to improve to help speakers to improve themselves because they really are prepared for the meetup and they want to share as much as possible. But sometimes, yet we try to do our best. But yeah, we really appreciate your feedback if you can share it with us. So during the meetup, you can do it already. You start doing it by following this link and answer several questions there. And today, I will have a small kind of quiz to our speakers, or a task for our speakers. Today, I will ask them to think about 3 statements about their life, maybe even daily life or work, or it doesn't matter, about their experience, it doesn't matter. And 3 statements, just simple 3 statements, where 2 statements will be the truth and 1 statement will be the lie. And we are, as a community, will need to to try to guess where is the truth and where is the lie. So yeah, that's it from my side. Let me invite our speakers, Rustam and Mats. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
How is your day?
Hi there.
Everything is
Good.
fine?
Good.
Are
I
you
think
ready?
we're excited to be here. I mean, it's really great to be here. So thanks for the invitation.
Yeah,
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 definitely.
the same for us. Thank you very much. So before as I said, before we start with the presentation, before we start with your topic, I hope it will be really excited and very informative and full of insights. I want to ask you for like this small three questions, three statements. Like I don't know, like we can start with math or with Tom, or you can combine it, mix it. How would you like to do it?
You can
sure.
go first, Mats, if you want.
Yeah, sure, I
Okay.
can.
Okay.
We have three statements about me, of which two are correct and one is incorrect. So the first one, starting out a bit geeky, is that I prefer coding for Android.
Coding for Android. Yeah, that's nice because I'm Android developer. I like it. Yeah. That's great. That's great. The second one? The second one?
Second one. The second one is I spent the Easter some years ago on vacation in Belarus.
Okay. Okay. That's looks very interesting, you know. And the third one, what is the third one?
The third one is that the glass I'm drinking water from right now, this one is from a pharmacy in Russia.
Oh, you know, it's very challenging. You know, three statements are very interesting and, you know, very challenging. What even to guess. Okay, so Android development. Yeah, it might be Easter in Belarus. Do you have any relatives in Belarus?
No.
No? Okay,
No.
okay. And Russian okay, let me choose the Android development. I would like you to see in Belarus. So let me choose that the line would be about Android development. Is it right or not?
Yeah, you want me to present the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that into mobile development.
Great.
That's actually a lie.
Great. Okay, great. So you've been in Belarus, right? So you've been in Belarus on Easter.
Twice actually.
Twice. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, well,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, on vacation and also a couple of years ago at JFuture conference. I guess
Okay.
some guys here were there as well and gave a talk there.
Okay. Okay,
Great
good.
conference as well.
Okay. Cool. That's great. So, Rustam, it's your turn, right?
Right.
Are you ready?
I'll do my best. I mean, the thing is that you haven't told to the audience is that we've been asked this to come up with those questions like 3 minutes ago. So I've been
So this is
frantically
the
looking
challenge, you know?
for yes, exactly. Okay, I'll start with I'll make it a little bit difficult. So okay, so one state. Well, I mean, the questions are kind of half embarrassing, so bear with me. I mean, not embarrassing in that way, but it's just like they're just, you know, the questions you come up in 3 minutes. I speak 7 languages.
Whoa.
So that's one. 2, I've been to Belarus twice. And 3 is I have been doing talks in at least 25 countries.
25 countries. Oh, great.
So,
oh my God. Yeah, that's also very challenging, you know, what to guess. I think that twice, like Matt said, that you've been twice in Belarus, so maybe this is the truth, because maybe you're like both were on the same conference, and second one is
that
live.
could have been another question, actually. That we've been to the okay.
Okay. I see that Alexander said that the second one is lie. Okay. Let's try. Let's try that the second one is lie. The second one.
So
Let's
what
try.
was
Let's
that?
rely
The 7
on
languages.
okay. No, the second one was about the Belarus that you've been
Oh, okay. Sorry.
2 times.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah, no
forgot
problem.
the order.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
I remember it correctly. Yeah. So I will rely on the community. So the
Okay.
second one, is
Okay.
it
So
true or not?
it is correct. I've been
It's
only
correct.
once. I've been only
Yeah.
once. I was about.
Oh, great. So our community, yeah, helped me a lot. Helped me a lot. So
Thanks.
great. Thank
Thanks,
you. Thank you.
Alexander.
Yeah, thanks, Alexander. Thanks, Alexander. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. It was really fun to try to guess, and I know that it was a harsh 3 minutes before the beginning to
It's
make
been
those
fun.
statements. Yeah, it can be challenging. So yeah, but right now I don't want to spend more time on our interaction, and let me share your screen, and you can start your presentation.
A quick question though. Oh, that's the wrong
Okay.
screen.
Oh,
Quick
wrong
question
screen.
though. Wait a second.
Ah,
Quick question though. Is how much time do we have for the whole presentation?
like 35 minutes, and then 5 minutes on question. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Now I should be sharing. Let me see. Share screen. Okay. Share screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Waiting
Okay.
for it. Okay.
That's good. Now it should be
Yeah,
right screen.
now I see. Yeah, this is one.
Thank you.
So the stage is yours. So try begin rock the stage as
All right.
usual.
Let's do that.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thanks.
And it's great to be here again. I mean, thank you for having us, and it's really fun to do this talk with you and for you. And the idea is that we'll start with something very basic, and then we'll kind of tell you the whole cloud story. I guess that's the short introduction to what's going to happen for the next some minutes. And then we'll open for questions. And by the way, you can, speaking of different languages and everything, you can ask questions in Russian, and I'll translate to Mats. And if you want to do that, you can ask both in English and Russian. All right, let's get started. Should we introduce ourselves first?
Yeah, I think we already got quite a bit of an interesting introduction, so thanks for that. But yeah, we can start by that. So
Go
my
ahead.
name is Mats. I work as a developer in the consultancy company from Norway called Computas. So we're based in Norway, and yeah, I've been working with Java development both on-prem and quite some cloud for the last 6-7 years. Currently for Norwegian tax authorities, developing solutions there. So yeah, like coding in Java, Kotlin, JVM-based languages mainly. So Rustam, take us away.
So yeah, my name is Rustam. I work in the same company as Mats, so we work together. I worked on a bunch of different projects. Mostly it's Java-related stuff, so it's well, probably more than 90% of the time there would be some kind of Java-related stuff. A lot on architecture, lots on cloud, and also I am running a GDG cloud community here in Oslo as well, and I am Google Developer Expert for cloud and Java champion as well. So I guess that would be very, very short introduction of us, and then I think we should get started. So I'll be doing the slides thing, and you'll be doing the talking to begin with.
You do the slides, I do the talking. Yeah. All right, so let's move. That's fine. Okay, so that was the introduction of us. So now let me introduce the idea of this talk is that we have some code that we want to do something, some business logic we want to be doing, and we have that code and we want to make that code available for the public or someone else, like not just on my computer, but available for someone else. So like going from code to production, so to say.
Yeah, and I mean that's the typical thing that what I mean, most of you that have studied computer science, work with computer science related stuff and everything. That's pretty much what we do, right? What we get paid for. But then the thing is that there is a little bit of difference from what way we kind of used to do it before with on-prem servers and, on-prem things, and the way how you do it now. So things have changed a little bit. So this is kind of a little bit of the story that we would like to share how it is now, or how we should be doing it now. So
as I said, we need some business logic. So our application is quite simple. So we want an application that can give us, well, 2 random words. So in the next slide, we see some examples of this. Yeah, like this. So you invoke the endpoint on your local computer, and then you get, well, those two words. And if you invoke it again, you get 2 different words. This is like the business logic we want. And this can be useful for things like, well, generating random words, obviously. Like if you want to need a name for your test cases, or for some kind of QR, not QR, but like 2-factor authentication solutions also use this kind of logic.
I mean, this is technically, it's been inspired by this mobile authentication, or kind of multi-factor authentication thing that we have here in Norway, that would just, you will click, so you do something on the screen on the computer, and then it will show you 2 words, and one of them adjective and the other one is a noun. And then it will show you the same words on your mobile phone, and then you would have to authenticate it through your phone, and then, magic happens and everybody's happy and you're logged in and everything. But then you have the same kind of idea of, if you don't name your containers in Docker, you'll get something similar and things like that. So the point is, you just have a service that does something very, very simple, because here it's super simple, right? And yeah, the first step would be to actually create the logic, right? Because I mean, like I said, the idea is very simple. You have 2 lists of words, one with adjective and one with nouns. You just have to randomly pick one, randomly pick another, and then you put them together and you return them. That's it, right? So, I mean, in the sense of code, that is super simple. That is 4 lines of code. I mean, well, I mean, it's probably, I don't know if it's the right thing to say if anything is super simple. I mean, it can be different to but still, I mean, it's if you measure in lines of code, it's just 4 lines of code. It's nothing super complicated with hundreds of lines of code and stuff like that. But again, this is like a thing. You have two lists, you pick something from each, and then you return it. That's it. Okay. So now we have to run that code, because right now we've written logic. We think it works. Or well, maybe we even compiled it and just like, run it in our IDE or something like that, right? But you still need to run it in a way that is a little bit more than just like, pressing the play button in your IDE or doing it from command line or anything like that, because this you usually need to make it available for others, and this is second step of making it available for others, right? So first thing to choose is to choose where to put it, or how to make it available to others. And that's where this first step of not running on my machine but available for everybody else is to put it on some kind of application server, right? So typically you would put it on something. I mean, and we decided to go for MicroProfile, and we'll explain why and what it is and how things work. And by the way, feel free to comment in the chat if you've used MicroProfile before, and your experience, and if you've heard about it, and if you haven't, what else you can use for this kind of things and everything. I mean, there's a bunch of things, but we decided to stick with MicroProfile, and I think it's about time to actually explain what that thing is.
Yeah. So like shortly put, we can say that I guess many of you already know about Java EE or Jakarta EE. as it's named right now. So easily put, we can say that MicroProfile is to microservices what Jakarta EE is to a monolith. So Jakarta EE for microservices, easily put. But there's also quite some similarities in both in the fact that, well, Jakarta EE is a specification, or a set of specifications actually, and MicroProfile as well is a set of specifications of things that you typically need in a microservice environment. So here we see like all the elements that MicroProfile consists of in 4.0, which is the newest version. And you can probably recognize some things, and other things are like more new, but there are lots of specifications that you can pick and choose the ones you need.
So the idea was actually to I think the reason why this whole thing was created was that the Java EE or Jakarta EE or whatever, it is called now, but back then it was still called, I think it was still Java EE, or it's changed names quite a few times, but it was like J2EE and all the other ones. But anyway, the thing is that back then there was not that much things happening, and microservices were kind of coming in for full steam, and something had to be done. So lots of bright and really nice people sat together, and they put together a little package that would help you to develop services with microservices with Java, with a little selection of packages. Some of them you recognize from J2E or Java EE, Jakarta EE, whatever you call that, and some of them are from outside, but they're still really necessary or vital to create a bunch of microservices, right? So like things like, I don't know, metrics or fault tolerance and things like that. There is also a tiny little section on the right side there that you see that is a bit more of a standalone thing that is kind of part of MicroProfile, but not really part of MicroProfile, which also brings some other cool stuff to the table. But this part we can talk about a bit, probably a bit later. So we're probably going to stick with, in our presentation, we're going to stick to this big MicroProfile 4.0 bulk of things, the ones that you see blue here. The reason they're blue here, by the way, is that they all have been updated for version 4.0, but for each version, it would be one way or another. Some of them would be still the older versions, and some of them would be updated. So they are kind of independent. It just happened that since it was a major release, 4.0 release, so they all were updated. The other thing that is probably worth mentioning here is that it is a specification. So it is a specification of what should be there, but it is up to application servers to, or providers of those to implement them. So this is just a spec, and it's then, if somebody says that, hey, we support MicroProfile, it's actually up to them to make sure that all of those things are implemented in their product. And speaking of supporters, I think we should mention a few.
Yeah, some name dropping. Like what we can see here are all the organizations that are part of MicroProfile, or part of the MicroProfile community, so to say. And you can see that there are quite some big companies here, like IBM, Red Hat, Microsoft, and Oracle. And there are also like smaller companies. For instance, Hazelcast is not that big. The K is for Cumulus, which is a Slovenian company. And you also have some Java user groups. Atlanta Jug to the right in the US. So Java, I think it's Sao Paulo in Brazil. And LGC is London Java community. So it's quite a combination of big companies and smaller companies and user groups, and also individuals as well. But most people involved have some kind of relation with those organizations here.
Mm. And I guess we need to, now that we have introduced what that thing is, so let's have let's say a few words about why actually MicroProfile. So why exactly this thing and not something else? Well,
Yeah, and this is
back to you.
yeah. But this is kind of what we started out with, right? You want to write your application logic, and you don't want to write all the infrastructure code that is kind of generic, and kind of in every microservice architecture, almost every, you need dependency injection. You need if you have REST endpoints, you need JSONB, and you need JAX-RS. And if you're running on Kubernetes, you will need health, like liveness probes and readiness probes. So that's also worth mentioning. I think that several of those standards are closely connected to the standards of, say, other parts of the infrastructure. So, for instance, health I spoke about now, but also we have MicroProfile metrics, which fits perfectly well together with Prometheus and Grafana, which are the most prominent tools for that. So there's an underlying notion in the MicroProfile community that we as a community, can say, should try to use standards that already are there and make everything work together with less friction.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of fun because I've heard some sometimes, I mean, throughout my life and as a developer, I've heard people talking about things like, why do we need application servers? We can just write everything yourself. And then I don't know, I kind of don't really buy that argument, because it's probably very fun to write like your first HTTP application server that will support REST and everything, but when you do it for like 100th time, it's probably not as fun. I mean, it's much more fun to actually write the logic, and instead of whatever becomes a boilerplate code at some point, right? But there are a few other things. The other thing with a MicroProfile is that it is really lightweight. So, I mean, one thing is that you don't have to write a lot of things. You can just use the libraries and things that are been standardized and created for you and packaged or made available to you. But then it's also very lightweight. It's quite easy to deploy, and it's, it has this the idea of that it's supposed to be microservices and running as a microservice. So you cannot just have a ginormous memory footprint, right? So that would be another thing. And one more thing that probably we should mention.
Yeah, that's interchangeable. And by that we mean, if you write your Java code or Kotlin code, probably, but say Java code with MicroProfile, then if you want to switch to another application server, which also implements MicroProfile, then you don't have to change your code at all. So like if you start out using, say OpenLiberty, which is one application server which supports MicroProfile, and you write your MicroProfile application for OpenLiberty, and you figure out that, I should have been using Cumulus EE instead as application server, then you don't have to change the code at all. You have to change some config and POM files and so on, but I think we'll come back to that as well. But that's
So, I mean, it's a tiny little kind of digression from the whole story, right? But we still need to pick some kind of application server, and we need to kind of make it sure that you can package all your applications and everything. Because I actually saw that somebody in the comments wrote something like, oh, that would be really nice where we could do the same thing for .NET thing, where we can just put all the NuGet packages together and just deploy it. And this is basically what it does just for the Java thing, right? It just creates one big jar, and you can actually even do it both ways. So you can just create a jar with only your stuff, or you can actually even create what's called fat jar, which would contain even application server and your application code together. So you can basically do java-jar and jar name and press enter and make it run. So you don't really have to think of anything. Just it kind of bundles the whole thing, right? So, but we just to finish off this kind of digression of application servers and what to choose and these kind of things, hopefully that we kind of introduced enough of MicroProfile to get you interested. And this is an open source project, so it's open for everyone to join and to be a part of or to use, and all those kind of things. Then we should probably mention this thing that, if you want to get started, that you probably have seen with similar applications. I mean, there are a few other ones, right? There is SpringBoot, there is Micronaut, and the other ones that kind of do the similar-ish kind of thing. Most of them would have a starter page, and this one is not an exception either. So with MicroProfile, you can actually create your own artifact, like initial artifact on the website, just by picking the libraries you need, and Java version, and MicroProfile version, all those things, and just create download. You'll get a zip with all of those things set up for you, so you don't have to just start from absolute scratch.
Yeah, and it's also worth mentioning here that we got this MicroProfile runtime dropdown, which is, when we speak about application servers, you can also say runtimes. It's pretty much the same things. So, like whenever you have chosen your MicroProfile version, say 4.0 in this this web page, then you get the runtime, a dropdown list, and a runtime list that gives you those application servers or runtimes that actually support MicroProfile 4.0.
That's, again, like I said, it's specification, so it's up to the vendors to implement that, and that will kind of will be reflected in the drop-down selections that you have. So, go ahead.
Yeah, before we move on, I think we got a question from Upward in chat, which I want to address right now because it fits pretty well with what we've been talking about. So they ask, well, why do we use MicroProfile all in one? And as we've been talking about MicroProfile as a set of specifications, so you can perfectly fine be using using MicroProfile health and metrics, but nothing else. But in practice, what you do is all the application is that the application server you are using implements the entire MicroProfile, and then you typically add one import or at least one BOM import to your POM file, which imports the entire MicroProfile code available to you, and then you use what you want from that. So that's why we talk about it in all-in-one sense.
I think this question was a little bit in the context of comparison with .NET that we saw in the chat as well a little bit earlier, and that one. And so I think here is the thing is that I think that comment that is quoted here meant that in .NET Core you would need to create your packages and then still deploy it to something, while MicroProfile would be also it will be able to run the whole thing for you as well. So it will pull the right contain the right packages. So kind of NuGet packages, similar thing. So in our case, it would be Maven or something similar. But then it would. In our case, we can actually create a fat jar that would contain both executable application server and our code. I'm not sure. I haven't checked. My .NET knowledge is slightly outdated, so I'm not sure if you can do the same thing with .NET Core now. But probably it should be possible. Otherwise, you'll have to deploy it to some kind of server that understands and is able to run that. But I think you should be able to create some kind of DLL or XC file or something. Please write in the comments. I mean, I'm not an expert on .NET. I haven't touched it for a few years, so I should not be saying anything about that, I guess. Okay, but now that we have the code running and we kind of landed on the application server. And again, I mean, this is our story and our choices, right? But still, your mileage may vary. And the whole point of this thing is that you need to have to write your code. You need to to select an application server to run it on. So it can be something else. It can be not even Java. It can be still a different thing, but it would still fit into our kind of modern Java or modern applications in general story, right? So now that we've written code, basically logic, we've written the application, we've chosen application server, and now we can actually say, well, it works on my machine. So now what do we do now? Well, typically, in some years back, I don't know, when I started working, it's probably like more than 15, 16 years ago now, that would be pretty much it. You would probably write a long description of how to deploy it on another server or install it on another server, along with installation instructions for your application server and everything, and you'd be probably done, right? So fortunately, things changed quite a bit, because usually it would be like ugly, long descriptions of things, very error prone. A lot of things might go wrong there. It will be different from the hardware, from software that you install, operating systems, and a bunch of other things. So I guess where we're going now.
Yeah. So this is like, containerize it, use Docker or Podman or whatever. And many of the app servers we've been speaking about also provide you with the Dockerfile, which you can start out from, or you can write your own or Google it. So typically, the Docker files for this kind of project tend to be quite simple, but there's always something. So containerize it.
Should we show an example?
Yeah, or like at least some things that.
Yeah, well,
I said they can be simple, but example of things to think about.
And actually, this is a very, very good description of what you see on the screen now, because there is a lot of things you can think about here, obviously, but with creating Dockerfile, there's a few things that can make your life easy, or they can make your life a little bit hard. So things that we would like to mention that definitely will make your life easier, and also will make your Docker, your images much smaller, is things like multi-stage builds, because you can actually use those to build your artifacts that will be deployed. So typically you'll build it with Maven, and as you know, Maven is kind of known for being very good and everything, but it has a tendency of downloading half of the internet when you build it, right? So you don't want to have that half of the internet inside your Docker container. So you do multi-stage builds that will kind of use all that artifacts to build your artifact that you need, but then it will pass on that artifact to something else, and just keep that and kind of discard all the other ones, all the other things that is not needed, were needed to build the artifact. And then you can use headless images or slim base images, or this very, very small images of super minimalistic operating systems that run inside your Docker container, and make them secure and hardened, and you can remove all this administrator rights and blah blah. There's a lot of things you can do with Docker that are considered good practices, and we probably should, it could be just a talk in itself, so we probably shouldn't go too deep into that, but we're just mentioning that when you put it in the container, and it could be Docker, it could be anything else. Again, we're picking Docker, we decided to go with Docker, but there are other container technologies or like products as well, right? All right, so now we've written logic, we've decided on application server, we have containerized it. So now we cannot just say, well, it works on my machine. Since it's in a container, it probably technically should run on any machine. So, well, as you can guess, the fourth step would be kind of obvious, right? Now we want to push it to the cloud, and again, if you want to run it on-prem, that's totally fine. You can deploy your container there, and you should be happy. We're kind of going to stretch this story a bit further, and you'll see why in a second. So now we're putting this thing into the cloud and beyond. It's very bad attempt on a reference to a very known cartoon, I guess. But I'll take that joke on my kind of account. So if it was really bad, blame me. But so putting on things on the cloud, that means quite a few things. That means that you need to well, obviously you can just do it like you did in old days, with long description of things. Click there, press that button, type this, and do that. You don't really want to do that, especially when you put things to the cloud, where everything has just been created to be or kind of optimized to be automated, right? So now you really, really, really want to automate your builds. So now you want to do, like, whenever comes a new commit, for example, I want to, like, the whole build and it's tagged with special thing or whatever, whatever your trigger is, you would want to start the build, and for hopefully you can also start the deployment process automatically.
Yeah. So as a developer, when I do git push, I want, well, some magic to happen, and then the application to be in production, well, when it's done. And cloud build on the GCP is what we have been using for this purpose, for this build purpose. So this screenshot here might be a bit small, perhaps, but this is like almost all the configuration you have on cloud build. So you can say that, well, whenever you push to either a name branch or any branch, you run your build. And you also have the build configuration on the lower part here, where you say a file type, and you can choose between cloud build configuration file or Dockerfile. So
yeah. And here we decided to go with whatever cloud provider provides for us. So we just gone with kind of cloud specific thing. But technically it could have been anything, but we just made it kind of least resistance kind of way. We just decided to go with that. And typically you would have some other that part would differ from cloud provider you choose, or product you're using, or whatever. The point is, automate. Even though you're running it on-prem, please automate it as much as possible. That is the kind of the moral of the whole story. And one of the questions is if you can use Jenkins in Marketplace. Yes, you can, but then it will be more expensive to you in a sense of basically money, dollars, kronas, whatever your currency is, euros. Thing is that if you're going to spin up the whole Jenkins thing, you're going to spin up the whole VM, and that VM will consume memory, disk, CPU, and all those kind of things that you will have to pay for. Cloud Build has a quite decent free tier, okay-ish free tier, and still, it's even if you have to pay for that, it will not be as expensive. But yes, you can, if you're very Jenkins specific or dependent on Jenkins, you can do that as well. But maybe that is not the first solution that you would go for.
Especially, of course, it depends. If you start out with Jenkins environment and want to move, then it's fine. But if you start from scratch, well, right, yeah.
Don't do it, because it's going to be yet another moving part, and it's going to be kind of thing that you have to think about, because you'll need to spin up the Jenkins servers and kill those Jenkins servers. You don't really want to have those VMs running all the time, and there's like a big snowball effect of this thing that will kind of start rolling, and it will just if you can avoid that, I would probably try to avoid that and just use something that can do that. There's a bunch of other services as well, right?
Let's just say 2 words about Dockerfile versus global YAML file.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, because we already spoke about the Dockerfile. So the Dockerfile we already spoke about might be, hopefully is, good enough for building your application. Perfectly fine. But if it's not, then you can use the cloud build YAML file, which is cloud build specific, obviously. But let's see, do quite some more configuration if you have something special you want to configure, like you need more hardware during the build, or things like that. So start out with the Dockerfile you already created, and if that's not enough, then look into the Docker Cloud with YAML.
There is a question. I kind of thought that we should keep it till the end, but I think we'll just pick it now. And about the difference from Alexander about the difference or comparison. I mean, if it is correct to compare MicroProfile and SpringBoot, and yeah, that's appeared on the screen. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. It's a question that is actually a very good question, and so it's a very legit question to ask, I guess, and we get that question quite a bit. Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
Yeah,
I mean,
I can start. I can start out answering that, because the short answer is yes, it's correct. You can say that SpringBoot and MicroProfile, they solve many of the same problems. In a way, you both give you things like CDI. REST endpoints, metrics, and so on. So they kind of solve the same problems. Well, but there are also some differences. And one of them is that while MicroProfile shares some standards or specifications with Jakarta EE, so if you already know Jakarta EE, then start using MicroProfile is quite an easy switch. That's one difference. Another difference is, well, SpringBoot is one application server, one implementation, so to say, whereas MicroProfile is a specific specification which is implemented by several different vendors, which gives you, well, if you don't like your MicroProfile application server, you can switch to another one. You can hardly do that with Spring. So that's both a benefit and disadvantage, I guess. It depends.
Yeah.
And I also think you can say that. Yeah, and you can also say that Spring is like its own environment, or the Spring community in a sense.
And also syntax, right? I mean, the way of doing things. So it's okay. I think maybe we should keep a little bit, save a little bit of that discussion till the end, because we're kind of running out of time, I think. But if you wanted to say some last few things, just go ahead, and then we can continue, and then we can continue that afterwards, maybe.
Yeah, I think we can. But just the final thing is that Spring is fine. SpringBoot is great, so nothing wrong with Spring, but just it's a different alternative.
Yeah, and it's could be a bit more friendly for people used to Java EE or Jakarta EE and things like that.
Yeah, but let's return to that if we get some time.
Let's return to that, because I see some follow-up questions, and I think we'll answer that a little bit later. And by the way, thanks for lots of great questions. That's fantastic. Like, questions are just coming in, and I can't stop answering those. Now that we've built a container and we put it on, your own cloud provider, whichever it is. In our case, that's Google Cloud. It can be anything else for your purposes. So now, what do we do now? I mean, now it's in a cloud, and it's cool and everything. But what is the thing? So, well, obviously, you want to go. That's the part of this, this joke that we had earlier, this and beyond part. Because when you put things in a cloud, and if you just lift and shift to the cloud, it's not as fun. You need to do something more about it to make it worth. Because I mean, just putting things in a cloud just for worth, for the sake of putting there, it's no point. You need to it need to bring you something extra. And in this case, for example, things like serverless, or like those infrastructure, all those things as a service brings you quite a bit of extra value. So in this case, we can go for serverless. And serverless is actually a pretty cool thing, because it lets us manage all those. I mean, serverless doesn't mean there is no servers. There are still servers, but they're not managed by you. Somebody else, or well, hopefully machines, are managing those for you, so you don't have to think about that. And this is
not your problem anymore. So
exactly. So it's not your problem anymore. And this is kind of how it looks. We'll probably show it very, very briefly as we're running out of time. But the point is that you see all the list of different versions of your application. You can switch between those. You can direct traffic to one or another. You can decide which one should be, should be kept as a production line and which ones are containing errors. As you see, some of them are red, so those are no good, and the other ones are green and they're like all happy and everything. So so in this case, we're using Cloud Run, and Cloud Run, that's the Knative managed version of Knative, which is again an open source product. And so we're kind of using cloud specific thing, but that cloud specific thing is basically a managed version of something that is open source. So it's kind of also easy for us to say, well, hey, we chose this because we're still not being married with any specific cloud provider in that sense. So now that you see that we have the same application, but the URL changed. It's not localhost anymore. Now it has, it's a little bit random URL there, but it's actually a web URL. So if you go there, I'm not sure if we still have application there running, but technically, if that would be a application running right now, you would go there and it would actually still return you something. We don't have that much time really left, but we should probably mention a few things more because this is a little bit. One thing is that when we advertise serverless a lot, but we should probably mention when not to choose serverless, because it's not that it will kind of solve all your problems. It will solve quite a few, but it depends on your application. Your application has to be stateless. That's first thing,
Yeah, and you can also say that, well, your application server needs to be able to scale down to 0 instances without blowing up things, but it also needs to be able to scale up as well. So if you get lots of traffic, then you start another server, and let's go.
And that brings us to the next step, right? Because the thing is that it has to be stateless, it has to be quick, because if it takes ages to start, it will be. But that also depends on two different things. So it can be your application that is written in a way that is very slow to start, or to kind of, because it has to do lots of strange things, or maybe not strange thing, maybe they're totally legit, but think about that. Think about startup time. But also it brings us to another thing that we'll probably have to mention, is that all the runtimes it runs on are actually different. So I mean, all of those that we've seen on the screen, and we'll see again now, they will be, I mean, all of them support MicroProfile, at least in most of the MicroProfile. Some of them have not officially fully supported, but that's another story. But the point is, they will be having different startup times, and some of them are a bit faster, some of them a little bit slower, but one of them is very, very, very fast, and much, much, much faster than anything really else. And that's another thing that we'd like to mention, which is again an open source product, and it actually is made by Red Hat, but it's pretty cool thing, and it can do a lot of things, and has supports and integrations with all the other things. You can probably recognize quite a few logos on the screen here right now, and I guess that's all we'll say for now. So you have Quarkus that is really, really fast at doing things.
Yeah. And you can say that it's an app server that's designed to be running on cloud and in containers. So
and it has two modes. That's actually a pretty cool thing. So you can have like the regular thing that like all the other ones, and then it would have this native binary mode that will kind of create everything, compile everything to a binary, and just you don't have to have JVM or anything, just running, and just poof, and it just runs. But that's a pretty cool thing.
Blazingly fast, and it's there are quite some things that can go wrong. So that's an interesting talk for another time.
Yeah.
So, but if you have your application running on some of the other runtimes and you want to migrate it to Quarkus or to any other app server, so you do the same thing. So like you don't know the starter, and in the sense of Quarkx, I guess you should download it from the Quarkx page and not the MicroProfile page. That's lagging a bit behind. And yeah, you download it, you unzip it, and so on. You take the POM file from the example, adapt it to your project, you move a config, and you update your build files, and that's it. So you don't change your Java code at all, which is really cool.
Next slide then.
Yeah.
So now that we have things running, you see the URL changed a little bit again. So now we're actually in Quarkus, and we're kind of done. And so this is a kind of quick version and of the whole story. So again, to repeat, you write your logic, you pick an application server, and you do not stop there. You actually go further to containerize it. But then you deploy it to something which can be automated, can be cloud, can be anything else. But if you go for cloud, or if you have some kind of on-prem solutions that can provide you some kind of serverless things, and your application supports that serverless thing, try to go for it, because they will save you for a lot of hassle and a lot of idling time of your servers just running there and doing nothing that you don't really want to do that anymore. I mean, this is what we did back in the days, and you would kind of buy a lot of servers, and most of the time they would idle. Now you have this thing of serverless where applications can scale down and kind of give away resources to other applications that need it more right now and things like that. The cool thing is that all that we've talked and showed you as a code and very simple application that we've created is on GitHub. So this is a URL for the GitHub. So take a screenshot, write it down, Google it, do it as you wish. And this is...
Or I guess that Power would distribute our slides as well afterwards. So.
Yes, we'll do that as well. So we promise to provide the slides to the organizers, so then you'll get them one way or another. I think that will be it from our side. And if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to ask them on Twitter or offline, or any other way. I guess we are running out of time, Pavel. What do you say?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. It was very cool. Really, I found some insights for me as well. So as I'm an Android developer and mobile developer, but I still interested in the cloud technologies. So for me, it was also very interesting to find out some things to check. Thank you very much. Yes, we are running out of time because the second speaker is already waiting for his presentation. And yeah, there were so many questions. I hope that those questions you can discuss in the chat, because yeah, it's also possible. Or you can write in the Twitter or any other way, like Twitter. You can write us, so we can then forward them to the speakers as well. But yeah, you can continue chatting in the chat. So right now, I want to thank you once again for your presentation, for your time. It was really awesome. And I want to invite our next speaker. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. So